My name is Jim Mittenthal. I'm the director of Camp Barney Medintz. There's so much that comprises this incredible place. Some of the core things that were incredible when I first stepped onto Camp Barney Medintz land are remarkably similar. Everyone awakens each day with the opportunity for kids, whatever it is, to discover something new, to express their creativity. There's an energy that's indescribable when, of course, you're in the Zabin Chapel on a Friday night or a Saturday morning. There's an energy that happens in our dining hall. It's defining when everyone knows your name. It's indescribable when you feel like you matter. And you're amongst a crowd of people who feel like family. That's something that doesn't happen everywhere. It happens at Camp Barney Medintz. And for those who have the privilege, regardless of what year or what decade, who have the privilege to step into this setting and to experience the kinds of things that kids and staff get to feel here during the summer, it's pretty cool.
Camp Barney Medintz, it's you that we cherish, and with you we all long to be. So here we are at the 50th anniversary of Camp Barney Medintz.
There's so many memories. That's the thing about camp. There's so many memories. It's like hyper memories for every minute that you're there.
We all have great memories, and I think it's through that we all kind of have a shared bond and relationship with something that was special in all of our lives.
Mine is dating and marrying my wife of 43 years.
Met my first husband when I was a young staff member. He had the keys to the kitchen.
I did meet my wife at camp.
You know, my wife was a camper too.
At a staff reunion weekend, I met my second husband.
I met Ellen, my wife, at camp, and we've been together pretty much ever since.
But not only did I meet two husbands there, but my first husband met two wives there.
We didn't actually start dating till I was 20, although he likes to tell the story differently. I was 20 and he was 27. We were both on staff.
I met my wife when she was 12. That's all I need to say.
There's something very common that we all think that the years that which we went to camp were the best years of camp ever.
Everybody thinks when they're there that was the best time and the best place.
Camp was definitely better when I went to camp in the 1960s.
I love to disagree because I always think that the best years of Camp Barney Medintz were the years I went.
I really didn't enjoy my time at camp because I really didn't like going in the lake a whole lot.
Well, even your worst day at Camp Barney Medintz was better than your best day anywhere else.
I was really bothered by the lake. In fact, I would hide in the woods when it was time to swim.
It's truly like a place of just happiness.
Or I would try to fake an illness and go to the infirmary.
It's something so intangible you cannot explain it.
Believe it or not, I like the bug juice. The bug juice was pretty good stuff.
Pointing me in a crooked line, and the less I seek my source for some definitives, the closer I am to find, yeah.
My strongest camp memory was, and I talk about it all the time, I went to Barney Medintz when I was 10 years old, and I went first session, and I had an incredible time, and I refused to leave, literally refused to leave. And Steve Krams was the director at the time, and I went up to him, I said, I am not leaving, and he let me stay. So that was my most vivid memory of camp. I think made all the difference in my life, that one moment. Now Larry Melnick would have never done that. That was the good thing about Steve Krams. He actually let me stay, so I stayed 2 sessions.
Eddie Robbins taught me the first stuff on guitar. Eddie Robbins was a director. I owe this to Eddie.
Bubba showed us as 17 and 18-year-olds the respect of an adult. You know, he treated us like real people. He didn't treat us like kids.
Larry Melnick took the camp from the brink of disaster to being a successful summer camp, and I will always be grateful to him for that.
Larry had eyes in the back of his head.
There was nothing that went on in that camp that Larry didn't know about.
You know, Larry's humility and Larry's willingness to help deal through any issue and any problem, the way that he dealt with parents, the way that he dealt with children.
Every Sabbath concert, Larry would put on a clown suit, and he would have a little shtick that he did at Sabbath concert, and he would give out these little patches that were little clowns, and it was the best if you got one of those clowns, and you just cherished it.
I had a really great year because Steve Mindel.
Oh, yeah.
I really liked Steve and had so much respect for him that I wanted to be a good camper for him.
He came in after Larry. There were big shoes to fill, but Steve did it. You know, he was fantastic for camp.
People would, when I would tell them I was a director of an overnight camp, they would say, "And that's a real job?"
Jim is one of the funniest people I know. He has such a great sense of humor, and it probably helps him get through a lot of long days at camp that he can find humor in pretty much anything.
The first day at camp, you know, Jim's always the one greeting and waving to the parents, and as soon as the buses leave, he just races right up so he could be the first person that the kids see when they get off the bus. And I remember being on the bus heading up there, and the next thing I see a state trooper pulling Jim over, and bad boys, what you gonna do? As soon as he was done getting his ticket, he made it right back in time for camp to be there as the kids got off the bus. And just like Jim, he's never not missed an opportunity to be there for the kids.
Jim has done great things for Camp Barney Medintz. He's done a really good job of staying ahead of the curve and being loose with the programming and changing, because kids of today are entertained in ways that we never could have dreamed of 20 years ago. Barney's been very lucky to have a long line of great directors, and it continues to this day.
I'll give you another memory. This too, I hope you got another minute.
It was probably 1975 or 76. Kitchen staff, and I think the salary for the summer was $125. Lots of benefits, lots of food, lots of good company.
The traditions that I remember the most at Camp Barney was wearing all whites on Friday nights.
Aww.
Wait, how many summers have we lived together?
Okay,
Havrim, Sophim, Olifim.
And there was a lot of red Georgia clay.
Jit, and 3 years on staff. 7 years, 7 summers we lived together.
7 good seasons.
By the time I came home from camp, they were no longer white.
You know, I think the strongest camp memory would have to be sneaking out. You know, and getting caught was probably as much fun as the act itself.
Some of the coldest showers I can remember in my life. I would have to say the bog.
They wanted us to brush our teeth with the bog mud, and my braces were really nice and shiny afterwards, as well as tasting bog for the next week and a half.
Color war, you know, I have this thing about color war. I never liked color war. I hated it as a camper, I hated it as a staff member, and you hear people say, "Oh, I just remember my fondest memories are color war." And
I just know I was into color war. And I remember after every color war, I lost my voice. It was the most exhilarating time of camp, and it was always a big surprise.
Jets, you have 15 minutes.
Once there was a wizard who went to China.
Who went to China? To learn to bake some challah. To learn to bake some challah. Some challah. Some challah. Some challah. Some challah, baby.
Which brings me to my final and last thought. I hope you're editing this out.
Something that's really embedded in my memory is waking up every morning to Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. They would play Teach Your Children Well. We would wake up to it at 7 o'clock every morning, and it's ingrained in my memory.
Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry. So just look at them and sigh, and know they love you.
At Camp Barney Medintz, I learned a life lesson not to judge other people, because you know what? I've been going there my whole life, and I have Tourette syndrome, and I have a lot of different kind of behaviors that come out of this good-looking body. But Camp Barney, no one ever judged me. Everyone always let me be the person I was. So I probably say in my 47 years alive, I've grown most of my life from a lot of things, but Camp Barney was a huge, huge part of my life of making me independent and making me have respect for people and nature and just everything in general.
It's remarkable that Halutzim has been at Camp Barney for 20 years. To have a program that includes children and adults with special needs, to be campers and staff members of camp, is an experience that we feel very fortunate that our son Scott has been able to have.
The Halutzim program at Camp Barney gives children and young adults with developmental disabilities or any kind of special need a chance to be a camper, a chance to go somewhere and be just like any other kid.
When our kids with special needs are at Camp Barney, socialization is no longer a challenge, it's actually just a grand opportunity.
Why is the Halutzim unit so great?
Trips and hunting, get out of camp, and activities, horseback or waterfront, movies if you want, and hang out with your staff.
To watch movies all the time, right? Is that what your mom sent you to camp for?
Yeah, she did. She did, Adam. Mm-hmm. It's given hundreds of kids great experiences, but it's also given the other kids and counselors at Barney a chance to be with kids that are special needs.
I think it teaches a certain level of tolerance for people of all ages, whether it's the first-year campers or the SITs who come on rotation with Halutzim staff. My interactions as a camper really inspired me to come back and be on a Halutzim staff.
And I remember saying to Jim, you know, our boys in Halutzim and the girls, they're aging out, and it's inappropriate for them to be campers. What can we do so that they can have jobs at camp? And I said, the reason you should do this is that the campers at that camp are going to be our future doctors and lawyers and judges, and they should see adults with special needs having value in society. And to this day, Cabin 20 is an exceptional cabin at Camp Barney.
Okay, Scott.
Yes, Adam?
We've been going to camp for a long time together, haven't we?
Yes, we do. Yes.
And not only did we go to camp for a long time together, we both started working at Barney the very same summer, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
In 2000.
2000, yes, we did.
We were campers together.
We were campers, yes.
We lived in Village 3 together.
Yes, we did.
And then in 2000, we worked at camp together for the very first time.
First time in history.
And the place hasn't been the same since, right?
The same since, Adam. No.
In the summertime, when the weather is hot, you can stretch right up and touch the sky. When the weather's fine, you got women on your mind. Have a drink, have a drive, go out and see what you can find. Sing along with us, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, da-da-da-da-da, yeah, we're happy, da-da-da, dee-da-da-da-da-da.
At camp, I had my first.
I never, you know, that's a good question.
Oh man, I had a lot of firsts at camp, and I will say that I had a first of everything at camp a lot.
Oh, so many of my first blanks happened at camp.
Everything.
Everything was a first. Water skiing.
First time I, slept in the woods.
I think it was my first horseback ride.
And he was head of horseback.
First time I had barbecued bologna.
Let's see, I think you've probably heard barbecue bologna.
Kiss, romance.
I went into labor with my first child.
My first bout of lice.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, there were firsts that must not be spoken of.
I could say certain things, but I wouldn't put that on camera.
I think the majority of my first blanks after infancy, I can say, happened at camp.
Oh, so many of those. My first girlfriend happened at camp.
You go ahead.
Oh, goodness. At camp, I had my first boyfriend.
Who was that?
I don't even remember.
She didn't have it then.
Gosh, it may have been my first kiss was at camp.
It wasn't my first kiss, but I did get to watch a lot of people's first kiss.
My first kiss happened at camp. That's probably true for many. Sheila Levine, in case you're wondering.
The first time I went to the back staff house.
Whoa.
It was because of him.
At camp, I had my first kiss under cabin 12 with Lindsay Faber.
At my first kiss, we literally ran into each other's faces.
Boy, almost everything.
The first time that I shot a bow and arrow.
Probably the first time I ever camped out.
Went water skiing.
And the first time I rode a horse.
Rock climbing.
First time I ever shot a gun. Back when camp had riflery.
It goes on and on. First, I mean, just hundreds of things were my first at camp.
My first real Shabbat happened at camp.
My first time reading a prayer.
My first experience at the chapel at Camp Barney is probably the most beautiful experience I've ever had.
Camp was a place where you did things you didn't do the rest of the year.
What's the saying, Franny, over the fireplace in the dining hall about firsts? When was the last time you did something for the first time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? There's some of the same firsts that even today we now provide our campers, and I'm talking about those moments when you have an epiphany of confidence because you realize you can do something that you didn't think you could do.
There's a lot of folklore at camp.
The ability to create folklore here exists, I think, because of the unknown that's out there.
And I think actually those stories contributed to a lot of the campers' comfort. Some of the campfire stories that were told probably scared a few folks.
The folklore that I remember at camp scared the daylights out of me.
Our counselors would always scare the daylights out of us.
The story gets passed down, whether there's any inkling of truth to them or none at all, it really doesn't matter because, as we know, campers will believe anything.
My favorite camp folklore is Irving Fonger. Irving Fonger was a wealthy, rich boy from Australia who wanted to do good and had come to Barney Medintz to help us do good and become more like he was.
A fictitious camper by the name of Harvey Zera. Who is Harvey Zera? I still to this day don't know if he was a real person or whether it was a made-up name.
Bert and Mandy was the counselor in the cabin that was attached to mine, and we were actually the staff members that came up with Shaprio. We wandered around camp and made some circles with X's, and the origin of that was Shaprio was a Chinese dish that they served at the restaurant that he would frequent. But that was our claim to fame.
You know what? There are so many stories about people dying on Jit Hill.
Jit Hill?
The ghost on Jit Hill. When I was at camp, I know there was a ghost at Jit Hill.
You didn't create her, did you?
She's real.
The tale about there being some sort of shadow that you could see in the chapel late at night.
The Blue Lantern.
The Poupon.
The Wolverine.
Snipe hunts.
All the different ghosts and goblins and terrible things that took place in the gold mines.
It's hard for me to go back that far and remember all those details, but...
Ruben Rodriguez. Candy Bach. Those aren't folklore.
And the Indian graves all over the camp.
Monkey paws that crawled into the camp, that went into the cabins and took the hair off young campers, put it in someone's fire.
The other one, of course, is Benny Cardell, the caretaker of the camp.
for our generation, Benny Caudell has to be a piece of it.
Benny Claudel.
Benny Caudell.
Benny.
Stories of Benny.
Or the legends of Benny.
The super human, strong guy that did, just courageous things.
The Paul Bunyan of camp. I think he built 90% of the cabins with one arm tied behind his back.
And the stories just kept getting bigger and bigger of the lifting of the horses, picking up the horse on his back.
And raising the horse on his finger and
lifting horses up to put them in trailers.
Saving horses from burning barns. And the stories is that he could pick up a cow or some kind of cattle.
Pick up a horse. He could ride upside down on a horse.
And I remember Benny bringing to the mess hall, first year, second year of camp, a rattlesnake which he had killed. And he split it open. There was a whole rabbit in the rattlesnake. The man was fearless.
I remember him taking a nickel.
Half a dollar. The silver dollar.
Bending quarters.
And how he used to often bend coins with his bare hands.
He used to bend pennies for the kids.
Putting it between his two fingers and squeezing it.
The bending of the quarter with two fingers is probably the greatest legend in Barney lore that I know of.
So I'd say that was probably the best folklore in my mind.
You believe in him?
Yeah, you have to believe him, sure.
Benny was a mountain man who could do anything. He could fix anything. He built the chapel.
Built the chapel using a Coke bottle and a string as a plumb bob. Frank Fearman, the director of the community center, another legendary person, said Benny can do this, and Benny did build it, and the structure was right. There are enormous stories about him, and he was just a marvelous, marvelous human being.
When the light of each summer's day reaches its end, I'll sit by the fire with all my new friends. A million tomorrows can never erase the fun and the joy, the beauty of our summer place.
Why do you think camp's been around for 50 years?
Where's it gonna go? I mean, camp is. You can't have summer without camp.
I have no idea. What's the secret sauce? I don't know.
The generational aspect of camp and the shared common experience that I have with my kids, that we can talk about things that they think that they discovered, that I thought I discovered, that somebody before me thought that they discovered, is tremendous. And I hope it goes on and on and on.
Like I said, the experience was almost like a band of brothers. It was a group of friends that I always looked forward to getting with during the summer, and that we still cherish to this day.
We just both like it here. It's a family thing.
I think if my dad could see camp today, he would be beyond proud, beyond thrilled, more than any expectation he could have ever imagined.
Barney would be proud.
To me, camp is a special place that could never be replaced or reinvented or recreated anywhere else but those 500 acres off of Highway 129.
I'm proud of the experience that camp has given to kids for 50 summers.
50 years. It's hard to believe.
Camp Barney Medintz, it's you that we cherish, and with you we all long to be.
What would you think if I sang out a tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song, and I'll try not to sing